Still rocking after all these years.
This is the story of my rock and roll butler.
This is it, the show that started it all. Often imitated, but never equal. From San Francisco, USA. Online since 2004. It's the one and only Rock and Roll Geek Show. With the original Rock and Roll Geek, Michael Butler.
Welcome to the Rock and Roll Geek Show. My name's Michael Butler. Thanks a lot for joining me. I really appreciate it. Today is Monday, January 29th, 2018, and it is 7:52 p.m. when I'm recording this intro. It's an intro because I just finished an interview with a guy named Jon Brewer. My friend Tim Binder does promotion for some films, and he's the guy who lined up the Derek St. Holmes interview for me. And he said to me, "Hey, there's this guy named Jon Brewer. He made a documentary about Mick Ronson called Beside Bowie. Would you like to have him on the show?" And I thought, well, I don't know anything about Jon Brewer, but I'm a huge Mick Ronson fan, and I could probably talk David Bowie with this guy. So I said, okay, why not? So anyway, my friend Tim Binder lined up this interview with Jon Brewer, and he sent me a link to this movie called Beside Bowie, which is a documentary on Mick Ronson. Actually, I remember that it came out in small theaters, like it did like an art house run about six months to a year ago, maybe even longer. And but he sent me it, but I watched it again the other night. And man, what a good movie this is. It's a documentary on Mick Ronson. Music and everything in it. You know, a lot of these documentaries, I think I saw another documentary on Mick Ronson that had no music in it because it's difficult to get the rights to some of these movies, to the music in some of these movies. And to me, that kind of it makes the documentary kind of difficult to watch when you don't have any music in it. But Beside Bowie, the one that Jon Brewer made, does have music in it. It's got it's got a bunch of David Bowie music. It's got Ian Hunter, Mott the Hoople music. It's got interviews with a whole bunch of people. It's got interviews with Lou Reed, the singer for Def Leppard. Which why can't I think of his name right now? But you know who I'm talking about. Joe Elliott. Interviews with Joe Elliott, Ian Hunter. David Bowie even does a little bit of voiceover in it. Great movie, man. It comes out today, January 29th on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch this thing for free. I highly suggest you watch it. Listen to this Jon Brewer interview. The guy is quite the character, and I like the guy. I'm not the greatest interviewer, but I think it's a pretty fun interview. So I hope you like it, friends. I'll close out the show with a song, but right now I'm going to go right into the interview with Jon Brewer, the maker of the documentary called Beside Bowie. He's done a whole bunch of other documentaries too. I'll just name off some of them. Michael Hutchence, the loved one, about the singer for INXS. He made a Kurt Cobain documentary. He made a documentary on Cream, a documentary on the Moody Blues, documentary on Yes. He even managed Chris Squire and some of the guys in Yes. He was responsible for Yes reforming. He did a documentary on Jethro Tull, did a documentary on Jimi Hendrix, Bad Company documentary, did a documentary on Beat Poets of the 60s, B.B. King documentary, Nat King Cole. This guy he's a legend, and I never heard of the guy before. That shows how much I know. Anyway, I hope you like this interview with Jon Brewer. Thanks for listening, friends. Here you go.
Hi, Michael. I'm here with Jon Brewer.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, John.
Okay, sorry about that. I had to watch the B.B. King movie, and everybody ended up crying. So, okay, where were we? We were.
This is the other interview.
Oh, it's another interview. Sorry.
Were you in the middle of another interview?
We were in the middle of another interview, and I had to stop it because of the B.B. King family walked in.
Huh.
So, yeah, that happens.
Or somebody was interviewing you. B.B. King's family walks in. You hung up on this guy and then called me?
No, I don't know. I'm just basically getting so confused. I've just been doing interviews all day.
This is a couple of hours ago. We've been watching the film.
Okay, well, where are you right now?
I'm Santa Monica.
Oh, okay. You're not in the UK then. That's good because I was wondering why a man of your stature would be up at 3 a.m. in the UK.
No, gave up that a long time ago.
Yeah. So you live in California now?
No, I live in Oxford, just outside London.
You're just here promoting. You're just here promoting besides Bowie?
No, I'm here filming the new Chuck Berry documentary and film.
Oh, you're doing a documentary on Chuck Berry. That's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, it's great. And I'm doing the biopic.
Huh. Did you hear Chuck Berry's last album?
Yes, I did.
It's really good, isn't it?
Well, to me, I thought it was, yeah, it's good, but it's just that it took so long. And when albums take a long time, what happens is they drift into different directions. And I think Chuck Berry should have made an album that was kicking shit red hot. And it would have been, coming out of the box at you. And that's how, because his music, I can't sit down when his music comes on. Maybelline and Nadine and all Johnny B. Good and, all of that. And that's what it needed. It needed some more of that, really.
Yeah, there's a few songs on that album that really put a smile on my face.
Oh, really?
So when you're doing, I know we're going to talk about Beside Bowie, which I saw. Actually, I think I saw it in the theater too. But I'm interested in the Chuck Berry documentary now. Are you interviewing for the documentary?
Who am I? Well, be careful what you do.
Who are you interviewing for the Chuck Berry movie?
Well, what we're doing, we came out here we've done the family. So we've got Chuck Berry's wife, Toddy, Mena. She did the first interview she's ever done in her life. But everybody's been after her for years, and Chuck agreed in Hell Rock and Roll for her to be interviewed, and then in the middle of not the middle, at the beginning of the interview, decided it was a bad idea. So, everybody's wanted to have. Then I've interviewed all the family now. Then I came, and the lawyers that represented him in the various problem years and problem issues. And then I came out here to do what we call the cutaways, which is reenactment. And we're doing it like Baby Driver, with the music synced into
right
soundtrack.
Yeah. And
so I recreated that. We're also doing we have a lot of black and white footage that we're doing like Sin City. So what we do is to spot color it.
Right.
And have that effect, which really looks great with the music. So I was out in the middle of the, what desert was it? Mojave Desert for 4 days shooting all these incredible cutaways.
Huh.
And with red Cadillacs and cars and stuff. So now I'm going down and I'm going to get certain interviews, not that many talking heads, but talking heads from different eras. Like I want some from the 50s, some from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000 to come in, bands that basically were totally affected. And we wouldn't have the Stones without Chuck Berry, we wouldn't have the Beatles without Chuck Berry, and so on and so on and so on. It was very interesting. I did an interview with a member of the Sex Pistols, and they told me that, it was Jonesy, and I spoke to him, and he went, "Do you know all our stuff was based on Chuck Berry?" And I went, "What? All of it?" He said, "No, the original Sex Pistols based their set around Chuck Berry because that was the artist that had influenced the most."
Yeah.
And that's really interesting because then that was in what was the 70s. Now Bruce Vig is going to come forward and do from Garbage. He wants to do it. So we've got the 80s. And we'll supplement it with a couple of interviews. The Stones will do it. The Beatles will do it. Springsteen hopefully will do it. And so on, And we'll just build a really tight little ship of interviews. And the 50s is more difficult but Johnny Rivers came forward. And Johnny knew him really well and performed with him many times. So, he did the most amazing interview the other day. So everything's coming together with that. How
far into this documentary are you done?
We did pre-production. We started production about 5 weeks ago. So production will go on for 2 more months, and then we will edit.
You make how many?
June.
So do they call you to do the documentary, or do you get the idea? Hey, I want to make a Chuck Berry documentary, and you just go with it, or does somebody contact you to make the documentary? Because I know you make a lot of these things.
Well, I choose what I want to do, and then what I do is because I don't like anybody else doing one at the same time, I usually look up the music. And then what happens is by looking up the music, I get enough window there to make my documentary. And I do about 2 a year. And, I work very closely with the record companies. And what we do is to try and make them as cinematic as we can. I really believe they should be able to go into theaters. And, so talking heads get a bit boring after a while. So I have to illuminate the film all the time. That's what I do.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to get the music rights. That's what was good about the Mick Ronson documentary, because there was music throughout it. And when I saw it in the movie theater probably about maybe 6 or 8 months ago, it was playing in little small theaters.
Yeah.
And I was
Did you?
Oh, it was great. I loved it. I actually, a lot of people probably cried, but I cried at the end of it when his sister was talking. But I was worried that there was not going to, because there's some of these documentaries come out and they don't have any music in them, and that kind of ruins the.
Of course.
It makes it hard. So is it hard to get the rights to the music?
Yeah, it's very hard, and it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So the fact is that because of my involvement with the Bowie camp in the beginning, and the fact that Bowie loved me, I believe, and the fact is that I did it in the right way, they granted me the rights, which cost a lot of money, but it was like they worked with me on it. And because I was not making a Bowie documentary, I was making a Mick Ronson documentary, The Unsung Hero, and I made it for Bowie as well, because he struggled with that whole thing. Ronson should have got music publishing credit on a lot of those songs.
Yeah.
But, David was, I believe, ill-advised. And he kept feeling that he was stuck. He said, how do I get out of this now? I can't suddenly just go around and say, Mick Ronson, you wrote all these songs and here's a piece of it. So, it was an interesting one. And he was starting to work again with Bowie, and Bowie started working with Ronson again in 1990, and they were going to put something together, and just ran out of time.
You know what got me in that movie was I never knew he made 55. Everybody in the Spiders from Mars, except for Mike Garson, they all made 55 pounds a week. That blew my mind when I saw that.
That was the old style of management. DeFries, I would. That's why we split, because I said, you're crazy. If that's the old school of management. And Lawrence said the same thing. don't go and basically give them a set wage and then control them by, you want a house, I'll buy you a house, don't worry. You want a new car, we'll buy you a new car. What do you want to do now? Oh, we'll go on a holiday, fine, just don't worry about it. Just tell us how much and we'll deal with it.
Okay, so they were paying his expenses and stuff, but he was getting £55 a week, but they were still getting houses and stuff like that.
Well, Ronson had a flat in Knightsbridge, which isn't cheap. He lives in Rolls Royce. Funny, but the fact is that, I'm sure when you go to work, you expect to get a wage. At the end of the day, you feel, well, that was great. I actually achieved something.
Yeah.
And you get paid for it. Well, think about him. He went on stage and achieved something or recorded things. But the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, yeah, he got everything to eat. But when he decided he didn't want to do anything, he ran out of money.
You think that's why? You think that's why DeFreeze got him that solo deal, because just to make him feel better because he wasn't getting paid with Bowie?
DeFreeze was out of Bowie. Bowie didn't want to know DeFreeze after a year and a half. Huh. But he had a contract. So after 10 years, he'd be free. So he legitimately contract. I know the contract. What happened was Bowie didn't want to know. DeFreeze didn't know anything had blown in his body, right? But all at the end of the day was, RCA at that time had to honor. It's a production deal, and so he had a piece of the albums. What happened was that he tried to do a Colonel Parker on David, and David just he wanted creative people around him. So, he tried doing it with David, and David said, "I'm not having any of that. I want my money." And it's the old school way of working. Give the artist anything he wants. Nice cars, nice playthings, everything else you want. Give them $1,000 a month, and anything else, they have to come to you. So you eventually have control, don't you?
Well, I'm surprised that when Mick Ronson went to, I'm assuming Mick went to Bowie and said, "Hey man, I'm only making £55 a week." I'm surprised Bowie didn't go to bat for him and get him some money.
Well, he did. When it came out that the boys, Ronson got a little bit more, but when it came out, it was a shock to everybody, and Bowie thought it was mutiny. Yeah. And he just took Ronson and said, "Oh, Tony's going to make you a star. He's going to make you another me."
Yeah, see, they did that. That's what they did. They got him the solo deal to make him feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hold on a second. We're just going to get out of the car and walk in with you.
Okay.
Hold on 1 sec.
1 second.
Okay. Live radio.
All right, you're on speaker.
Okay.
Okay, let me go sit down for a second. I'll be with you. Hold on.
I like Jon Brewer. He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
All right, go for it, Michael.
Okay. John, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Where are you now?
I'm in my hotel.
Oh, okay. So you're driving back from the desert from doing the Chuck Berry film?
New B.B. King film. I made B.B. King Life of Riley, and when he said something to me before he died, said, "Will I shoot the funeral?" And I thought it was a very strange request, and I said, "Yes, I would." B and I had a very close relationship, so at the funeral, the musicians were very upset, and they said, could I make a sequel to B.B. King Life of Riley? So I said yes, and it was all very emotional, and so I took B.B. King's bus, and I put all the remaining musicians that were there and musicians that have worked with him for years in the past. And what we did was screwed the cameras to the floor and drove them through the night from Nashville through to Indianola, where the Beebe's buried. And then we got them telling the war stories, which is quite incredible. I mean, I've just finished the film, and I wanted to show it to Sue, who was his wife, ex-wife, and the family before. So I went over to Universal Music and I set it up because I didn't want to put it in a big theater, just to let them feel that they were part of it. So that's what I did. And we all ended up in floods of tears. It was quite embarrassing.
Oh, so they liked it.
I think so.
Good. That's good. And what's that one going to be called?
That's called B.B. King on the Road, and that goes out in about 2 months' time.
Damn, you're constantly making documentaries.
I am. I'm getting very old, and I have to get them done because otherwise we lose this fantastic. Artists, and no one will have done what I do.
Well, the Mick Ronson documentary is great, and if all these other, I haven't seen any of the other ones that you made. Do you do you finance these yourself, or who's financing these things? Because they can't be cheap.
Well, I do. No, they cost $1 million.
And you're loaded with money. You're rich.
I'm loaded? No, I'm not loaded at all. I'm looking for my money.
Yeah.
Everybody keeps nicking it. That's the expression.
I'm assuming that they must make money. I guess. Do they make money?
Well, I've never lost on a film.
How long? So the Bowie document, not the Bowie, the Mick Ronson documentary, besides Bowie, comes out today on Amazon Prime. You what kind of a deal with Amazon? I can't imagine that pays that much money on Amazon.
Well, Amazon Prime is not. That's a participation deal of which we and my partners and my agents basically do with Amazon. But it's coming to the situation now where I'm doing deals with PBS, and I'm doing deals with Showtime, I'm doing HBO. But the truth of the matter is that they're all getting limited now. They're all becoming, broadcast has taken over where the DVD left off.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we get the broadcast. Now we're turning it around. Then we put the DVDs out. But also to get the broadcast off the ground, we need to take theatrical rights and basically promote them on an event basis or a theatrical basis. And then you've got the SVOD rights, which we're talking about. And so it's a joint sort of effort. I mean, at the end of the day, don't forget, each country is slightly different. But I got a reputation that they work. So what happens is I overproduce because I make them look like documentaries that can stand the strain of going into a theater. How
long did it take you to make the Mick Ronson documentary? Because you got
about a year.
So you shot it a long time ago because Lou Reed is in it, talking.
No, that's archived.
That's okay. So it's him talking to somebody else.
That was shot by Eagle Rock years ago.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And just for they did a Lou Reed documentary, and Lou was alive then. But it's such a marvelous bit. I refused not to put it in. As far as I was concerned, anybody that can sit there and then take his voice off, don't forget it was his voice that came off, and say, wow, this guy was like something else, and he made me, without any vocal, turn around and say his arrangement was so good that it sounded tremendous.
Yeah, that actually, to me, that's the only real good Lou Reed album is that album that Ronson did. I like watching those movies when I like watching the documentaries when there's a classic album series when they'll bring down tracks and they'll isolate tracks and you can get how the album's made. It's really effective.
Yeah.
You did some like that. You did Jethro Tull and Yes, is
I
that
did I called it the Classic Artist series, and we did Cream, Moody Blues, Yes, Jethro Tull. We did one called Legends of the Canyon, which was about Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and we did Jimi Hendrix, like the Guitar Hero, and that was great because I'm the only one that's ever done one with the music. I told Janie she's not getting any penny from me, and I did that. And because I knew Jimmy, and Jimmy would have turned in his grave. I mean, I'm very determined. So what happens is that I say, this has to be done, we're doing it. I did one called The Rock Poet, which is all about the poets, like the beat poets, of which Jim Morrison was a beat poet.
Yeah. I'm in San Francisco, so that's where the whole thing started.
Yeah, well, then I mean, that's all about San Francisco. You should definitely watch that.
So did you got to know a lot about all these artists? You knew all these people. You knew the guys in Jethro Tull, and I think when I was hearing you, when I heard you on Jonesy's Jukebox, you said that Chris Squire from Yes is like was your best friend.
Chris Squire, I represented and managed for years, all the way up to his death. But
you managed him, huh?
Yes. I managed Yes as well. I sort of left that camp because that camp is a little bit strange. It keeps breaking up and different bands go on the road, and that's not my style. So, but I know all the boys very well. And Chris was, when I moved out to California and lived here for 6 years, Chris became very much probably one of my closest friends. And I was absolutely destroyed. And he phoned me. I phoned him, and he told me that he was in a hospital sealed room. And I said, what are they doing? He said, I'm just doing tests. It's okay. Don't worry. I said, no, I'm coming out. And he said, no, they can't see me anyway. My kid can't even see me. Children. And I went, wow. Okay, so how long? He said, well, I know where we are in 2 weeks. And I came back, and I walked into my house, and tonight was the 14 days after he'd spoken to me, and I said, right, I'm going out to LA, and I need to take care of this now. I've given him 2 weeks. And my wife screamed, and I knew he'd died.
Yeah, Chris Squire lived the rock and roll life to the hilt, right?
We both did.
Oh, you did too, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, this is my 15th year in rock and roll.
You managed two guys from the Stones. You managed Mick Taylor.
Yes, managed Mick Taylor, and the first thing he said to me when we sat down to have our first meeting at lunch, and he said, by the way, John, I did leave the Stones. And I thought he was absolutely joking. And he said, no, I've left the Stones. I said, well, that's not a good career move.
No,
And he said, I said, anyway, let's get down to business. And he said, no, I have actually left the Stones. I said, what have you done? He said, I told Mick 2 days ago. And I went absolutely mad and wild.
So did you still continue to manage him? Of
course. I wouldn't do that. And I managed him, and I did his big record deal with CBS, and then he's not a front man.
Yeah.
And you can't make a front man, just like I would never try and make Ronson a front man.
Exactly, right, exactly.
So, I said we need to do things. I was managing Alvin Lee 10 years after at that time, and Alvin and Mick went on the road together. I mean, it was quite extraordinary. They sold out big places.
Yeah, two great
all
guitar
over.
players.
That's right, and two very different guitar players, but both were blues guitar players.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure, I managed Mick, and I don't think I made a very good job about it or with it, but it's very difficult to take someone so shy as Mick and explain to him how it's done. Bill Wyman, I represented a band called Tucky Buzzard that he created, and that was much earlier, and they had a hit record over here, a big hit album. It was in the early days, and it was around the Mark Bolan time, the Bowie time, and the Rolling Stones on Velvet, Granny Takes a Trip time.
So that was a side band he had going at the same time as the Stones.
No, he never played with them. Oh, he did play with them, but he never played as a member. He funded them, financed them, and I took care of some other work for Bill. And because Bill was always very different from the other members of the band. Him and Charlie were completely different. It was Keith and Mick. That's why Mick Taylor left. And they weren't letting anybody into the songwriting. And eventually, Bill Wyman had a song called Je suis a rockstar, and that was because he moved to the south of France and started trying to speak French. And at the end of the day, he sort of got the feeling he wanted to write songs. I mean, then what happened was that Mick and Keith wouldn't let anybody in.
Yeah, they wanted all the money.
Well, you know, the Glimmer Twins took over. They produced and they wrote. And Bill, I think, got slightly fed up with it and said, well, get on with it. I'm leaving. And he did a few tours. And then he met this beautiful woman, had a family, and said, look, I've been doing this for years. I've got enough millions. Why don't I just stop? Well, I could have told him why he shouldn't have stopped. But financially, maybe he didn't want to go through all that shit again. There are a lot of people that don't want too much money. I mean, he's got millions and millions and millions and millions, but, you know, to keep getting hundreds of millions is a different matter.
Yeah, Bill Wyman, one of the great unsung bass players. That guy's way, way underrated on bass.
That's right.
As was Mick Ronson. That guy, Mick Ronson, probably the first real guitar hero, and not many people consider him a real guitar hero, but that guy was a monster.
He was.
Not to you ever hear? Well, there's a lot of Mick Ronson stuff that he produced that I like. I saw Ronson with Ian Hunter probably like 1989 in San Francisco. It was Hunter Ronson, but he produced this. Ian Hunter and Mick Ronson produced this album by one of my favorite albums called. Well, it's by a woman named Ellen Foley. You ever hear that album?
Of course I have.
That's a great album.
Yeah.
And he played guitar. He played guitar on that album. He did string. He did pretty much everything on that album.
Yeah. And there were others too. You know, I mean, John Mellencamp. Nobody really knew that was Mick Ronson.
Yeah, that's right. Which album did he do? Did he do Scarecrow?
No, he did. Was it something Diane? Wasn't it?
Yeah, Jack and Diane. Yeah, I don't know. I think that might be Scarecrow.
I don't know what. I can't remember the name of the album.
Yeah, nobody knows that Mick Ronson had anything to do with that.
Well, Jack and Diane, that song had been around for a long time with Mellencamp and he just took it, arranged it, and out it came, and it's the #1 record.
Yeah, it was great. He played a solo on the last thing. What I heard was the last thing that Mick Ronson ever played on was a band called the Wild Hearts. You ever hear that song?
Yes, I did.
My Baby's a Head Fuck.
Yes.
Yeah, great tune, great playing too. I've always heard such great things about Mick Ronson. Such a loss.
Yeah, dreadful loss, and they just ran out of time. The greatest thing, that's why I included it in the film. I included it in the film for one reason, and the one reason was that I had to show that Freddie Mercury concert.
Yeah, it was great. That was great.
Because that's when Bowie and Ronson joined hands again on stage. And he played Heroes, which should have been
he should have played and recorded Heroes. It was a song that he should have played.
He plays.
And
go ahead.
well, he should have originally recorded that. And they were heroes, and they went out there, and the smile on David's face and the smile on Ronson's face, and they almost basically entwined. 2 weeks later, he was dead.
He played the melodic part. He was using an ebow, like had the thing that like vibrates the strings, and it just sounded so good.
Right.
And you even the guys in Queen had smiles in their faces when he was playing.
Yeah, that's right, and that's why Taylor actually put all that concert together. So when he held a dinner party, and they all went back, and Ronson was there, and then they went to do something else, and they held a dinner party 2 weeks later, and Ronson wasn't there. He died too soon.
Yeah. Was the Ronson documentary the last documentary you've done that has been released, or how many more have you done since you shot that one? That have.
Well, I've only done one, which is the B.B. King, which hasn't got out yet, and then we're going to go with. I suppose there's two more in the line, which I can't let out, but we're getting there.
I heard you're doing it. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
The Chuck Berry documentary comes out next.
So
after B.B. King.
I heard you're working on a Guns N' Roses documentary. Is that true?
I did that.
Oh, you finished? You made a Guns N' Roses documentary. Is that done?
2015 for the BBC. I co-produced with me the Guns N' Roses. It was only for television. And broadcast, and the BBC went to put it out through Showtime, and there was a threatened lawsuit, and being, weak broadcasters, they all basically huddled together and decided not to sue each other. Mm-hmm. But it will come out in America. It was brilliant. And I know it's mine, but it was brilliant.
Huh. Well, you're like amazing.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Well, thank you.
How well did you know the guys in Jethro Tull?
Well, Ian Anderson is probably the most boring person I've ever met in my life. But he's like, when you saw Jethro Tull, and if somebody told you that man never took a drug and never did drugs and never basically really, it's true. But when he cut all his hair off or it all fell out, he just never stopped talking.
Oh, right.
And so at the end of the day, and then he changed every member of his band, I don't know how many hundreds of times. He's had more musicians in the band than Yes.
Yeah,
and that's quite a few. And I did that, and I was so bored with it. And I don't know how long I've known him. He came over to my house. I talked to him. And I used to talk to him in the early days. But he's not my type of guy. I mean,
What about Martin Barr?
Well, Martin has a completely different attitude.
Yeah,
but,
that guy's an underrated guitar player as well.
Oh, absolutely. Brilliant guitar player. But he and Ian had,
disagreements.
Well, I don't even know. When Singer basically out there, and I take my hat off to Ian Anderson, going out on the stage with a flute.
Yeah, that's right. That's
so
right.
A rock and roll audience.
That's right.
Ain't the easiest thing in the world.
No, and he played that flute like Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
He made that flute a rock and roll instrument. Yeah. Believe it or not, when I was a little kid, you had to join the school band. Right. And I was a Jethro Tull fan because that's the first album I ever bought was Aqualung. And I said, oh, well, the flute's a rock and roll instrument. I think I'll play the flute. Little did I know that I would be ridiculed by all my school mates because the flute wasn't a rock and roll instrument.
No. But think of the Moody Blues as well. I mean, you know, the flute was, you know, so perfectly used. And Ian Anderson is a great player, but he's not a rock and roller now. He's
not anymore. Yeah, that's for sure.
He's a dedicated follower of fashion.
There you go.
And we won't go there yet.
Right. Oh, okay. I read you loud and clear.
All right.
All right. Well, Jon Brewer, thank you so much for coming on. The movie is called Beside Bowie. You done a lot of interviews for this movie?
Yeah.
You've been promoting the hell out of this thing?
Yeah, we threw a massive premiere in London. Angie Bowie flew in, loads of people. And since I've been out here, I've been working hard. We're now doing some press. And, we're doing okay. The DVD's going to come out too. We've had a little theatrical, which you went to. And, you know, it's going to be around for years. I think it's going to become a little bit of an underground piece of product. So
are you
just rock on.
Are you sick of talking about this movie?
No, I never will be sick of talking about any of my movies.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's good. All right, well, Jon.
That's why I make it.
Jon Brewer, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It was very nice to talk to you. I really like you a lot for some reason. But
okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
See you next time.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. There you go. Jon Brewer. Man, that guy's had a career. Wow. I had no idea, man. The guy has made a shitload of documentaries. Bad Company, B.B. King. I can't wait to see that Chuck Berry documentary. That's going to be great, man. He even did a Nirvana documentary. All right, friends. Thank you so much for listening to this. I don't know how great of an interviewer I was, but I like talking to Jon Brewer. And that movie, Beside Bowie, comes out today, which is Monday, January 29th when I'm recording this. Comes out on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch this thing for free. Do yourself a favor, friends. Watch this movie because it is great. Especially if you're a Bowie fan. There's footage. There's some footage that I've never seen in this movie. And there's tons of music throughout it. It's a great flick. Go watch. It's probably not doing it justice by calling it a flick. You know what I'm saying? It's a great documentary. Jon Brewer, great documentary filmmaker. He's in the movie too. Look for the guy with the thick glasses. I like this guy. All right, friends. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you for donating to the show, friends. Please keep the donations coming. Without your donations, this show would die a horrible, putrid, stench-filled death. You can find this show at rockandrollgeek.com. Send me an email, rockandrollgeek@gmail.com. Find Jon Brewer. Let him know you heard him on the Rock and Roll Geek Show so he doesn't think that he wasted his time. Maybe he'll want to come on and talk about the Chuck Berry documentary. rockandrollgeek@gmail.com. You can find me on the Facebook, R&R Geek. Find me on the Twitter, R&R Geek. Find me on the Instagram, Rock and Roll Geek Don't Ask. And that's enough ways to reach me, friends. Why don't we close out with a David Bowie tune? Let me see what I can find here. All right, here's something from Aladdin saying, this is possibly my favorite Mick Ronson guitar solo of all time. This is The Prettiest Star. Thanks for listening, friends. We'll talk to you soon.
Got everything but cold fire. You will be my rest and peace, child. I moved up to take a place near you. So tired, it's the sky that makes you feel tried. It's a trick to make you see wide. It can all but break your heart in pieces. Staying back in your memory are the movies in the past. How star. One day, though it might as well be someday, you and I will rise up all the way, all because of what you are, the prettiest star. Staying back in your memory, all the movies in the past. How you move is all it takes to sing a song of when I loved the prettiest star. One day, though it might as well be someday, you and I will rise up all the way, all because of what you are, prettiest star.
It's a rock and roll geek train wreck.